Hello, this is Ron and Hugh. This is Politically Challenged Episode 2. Today we're going to talk about tensions between Britain and Russia, the Putin election. I'm not even going to call it a Russian election because he won. He was always going to win, so you might as well call it that. And we will also talk about the Facebook scandal involving Cambridge Analytica and other factors. It is an odd name, yes.
Other factors?
Yes, other factors that led to the scandal. Now, we'll start off by talking about Russia. Now, we've heard a lot of talk about Putin, about the poisoning of the former double agents, who is a Russian exile, and his daughter getting poisoned as well. We heard about another Russian person who actually died in New Malden.
But the police officer, he's okay now, isn't he? By time recording, he's okay.
Yes, the police officer, the detective sergeants that assisted the pair, the father and daughter, the Sergei Skripal and his daughter, he's fine. He got out of hospital on Thursday. He should be with his family now.
Today's Saturday? Yeah, today's Saturday.
Yeah, today is Saturday, so at time of recording, he should be fine.
But the other two are critical, aren't they?
The other two are in critical condition. They, according to doctors, they may be facing brain damage, and that's if they survive. Okay. Now, what do you think about Russia with everything that's going on?
Well, I don't have a general view of Russia because at the end of the day, there probably are like 10 or 20 or 34 people are involved in this incident, this specific incident. So I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to have an overall opinion of Russia based on this one incident. But we could talk about the election, which is more general. This is like strange because this man was like, he was double agent. He served time in Russia, and then he got exiled to the UK, so he's no longer allowed to go back to Russia. So for all intents and purposes, his matters and his association with Russia is officially dead. So that man was, for rightly or wrongly, he was expelled from his country. I don't know what information he gave to them and what information he took and so on, but he has faced his punishment, and Russia got their agents back in return. So the motive for the Russian government or anyone else is very weak. It's a very weak motive to go after him now.
I suppose objectively it doesn't make any sense. Why would they kill someone who they claim is a traitor? Why would they decide to kill him weeks before the election? I mean, it doesn't seem to make.
Are you saying those two are linked?
I'm not saying the links. I'm just saying, even if they are, why would he? Because it is weeks. It was the 4th of March when Skripal and his daughter were attacked, and they just had the election in Russia. Why on earth would Putin orchestrate this and get involved in this and try to kill him off and the daughter, when they know that it could destroy the outcome unless A, they're stupid, or B, they knew they were going to win anyway because they have state-owned media, because they have all the power, or C, other factors, or D, actually no, go back to C, maybe it wasn't them. It's an option. I'm not saying it was them or wasn't them. There's a lot of evidence that says it might have been them.
I saw a clip with Channel 4, and they interviewed one of Vladimir Putin's best friends, and he suggested that maybe it was no one, and it was just a bad case of food poisoning.
Is this about the recent one?
Yeah, I saw it yesterday's episode. Last time they showed an interview where the guy said, maybe it was no one, maybe it was just some bad chicken or whatever they ate.
Yeah, because there have been other incidents where Russian exiles have ended up dead, and people have claimed that Russia was involved and the Kremlin was involved. There is, of course, Alexander Litvinenko, Boris Berezovsky, and a few others.
I'm not even going to try to say their names.
Yeah. Well, Litvinenko, of course, he was poisoned by polonium in the tea he drank, and it took him, I think, days, weeks to die. He left a widow and a son.
I guess it was a painful way to die.
Yep. Painful and long. I mean, whoever did this to him, they really wanted him to suffer. I mean, he was the guy whose face was used for target practice by Russian soldiers, and they even recorded it and sent that out there so that people could see that he was a traitor and not to be trusted, and someone to...
I think I've seen it like it's a bit of propaganda. He is, based on the government, he is public enemy number one. Soldiers are trained, war trained for his face, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the name, but I know the footage.
Target practice. They shot at a photo of him. That's what they did. Wow, that was the man in New Malden, Nikolai Gluskov. He died on March the 12th. But before he died, he talked about how his friend Boris, the man who died in 2013, how Boris and Litvinenko were on a Kremlin hit list, and how he thought he was next. So some say that he might have committed suicide. I mean, there were strangulation marks on his neck. I mean, he may have been killed, it may have been suicide. We don't know for sure. Of course, even with the Sergei poisoning, you've got people like Corbyn who say, oh, we need definitive proof as to how this all happened.
We need definitive proof. We need to know who did it and why. The why is more important to me, actually, than if we find the who, we find the why. I want the why.
The BBC had a field day when he said that. You had BBC News Tonight talking about him. Jeremy Corbyn's photo was photoshopped so that his hat would look more Russian. He was in front of a Russian skyline, also that the imagery would create some sort of impulse that he was a Russian ally or a double agent when he isn't.
So was it the BBC, or were they showing stuff that other people had done?
No, like
the BBC.
They were talking about Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah,
there
but
was a photo of Corbyn.
Who made the images today? BBC.
Well, whoever works for the BBC, presumably. In my opinion, it must have been done on purpose to make him look perhaps I'm a bit biased, not because I'm necessarily pro-Corbyn, but because it just made sense. But they did make the hats to look more of a Russian type of fashion, and he was in front of a Russian skyline while they were talking about how Corbyn believes that it may or may not be Russia. But unlike Theresa May, who says we need to get rid of 23 diplomats immediately because they're from Russia and we believe it's Russia and they've done this before.
So back to the Corbyn. So in this situation, BBC, an organization, portrayed one individual in a negative light in order to gain a reaction. That goes into the Cambridge Analytica.
It's a shared opinion with myself and people who are pro-Corbyn and Labour supporters, etc. People often talk about how the BBC may be biased. Whether that's true, that's open for discussion. But
everyone's a little biased.
There's credence. There's credence to that notion.
Let's talk about Cambridge Analytica because they're involved with.
It does tie into Russia because Russia...
And this Corbyn thing about using someone's image in a certain way, like the dirty Hillary stuff and...
Yes, the crooked Hillary...
The Brexit stuff.
The crooked Hillary ads that Cambridge Analytica... Well, one person from Cambridge Analytica, Mike Turnbull, admitted to using in order to gain a reaction so that people can not vote for Hillary and instead vote for Trump. And the people in charge of those ads were working within the Trump campaign and were working alongside Cambridge Analytica. Now, it's interesting because what we need to make sure is that if this sort of thing happens all the time, how can we tell and what can we do about it so that it doesn't sway people's minds so that they are manipulated into voting in a certain way?
So Cambridge Analytica. So who are they exactly?
Cambridge Analytica. They're called many things.
Are they England? No, they're American, are they?
No. It's England based. They were based near Cambridge University. That's why they got the name. They wanted to sound like British, like posh, like established. In a nutshell, Cambridge Analytica, they're seen as a data marketing firm. That's what they call themselves. They also claim to be one of the biggest and strongest political consulting firms in the world, even though many people didn't hear of them until like a couple of weeks ago. Some people did, some people didn't. In a nutshell, they have been working with people from all around the world, Nigeria, Russia, Brazil,
What did they do in
Kenya.
Nigeria?
Nigeria, they made sure that they helped a client make sure that Goodluck Jonathan, the client's ally, Goodluck Jonathan became president of Nigeria instead of Buhari, who is the president now, because Buhari is a Muslim. They didn't want Buhari to win because, well, many people didn't want Buhari to win because he's a Muslim, and they were afraid that he would invoke Sharia law onto Nigeria and the whole of Nigeria. All these oil-rich millionaires, they didn't like that. Different people didn't like that.
Wait. So he was the president or prime minister of Nigeria?
President.
So he was already president of Nigeria, and obviously the Sharia law hadn't happened.
Goodluck Jonathan had won because yes.
But the president, the last one, he was Muslim. He was president for how many years, and Sharia law didn't happen, and people still believed the hype.
Like people believed the hype. They just didn't, because of who Buhari was and his beliefs. They didn't believe that it would be a good idea for him to win. So somebody, we don't know who the person is, somebody hired Cambridge Analytica to help make sure that Buhari did not win and that the Christian Goodluck Jonathan did, because, of course, Goodluck Jonathan would not invoke Sharia law regardless. And what happened was a propaganda video was made invoking negative reactions. People were getting killed, beheaded, heads cut off, and then they'd say, oh, this is what happens when there's Sharia law. That's what happened with Nigeria to help Goodluck Jonathan win, according to one of our sources. And according to that's what we found with our research. Now, Cambridge Analytica said Russia wasn't one of its clients, and then according to certain files, Russia was one of its clients. It also helps Kenya, affected Kenya's election and the elections of other countries. Now, this is important because...
Does it clean Russia's hands completely from the American election, or you say they're involved?
It may and may not. It may imply that Russian people were not the only people involved. Like the big deal in 2016 was that, oh, it was the Russians hacked our election, Trump helped them do it, or they helped Trump.
So is it going to be the British now?
Yes, now they're saying that it was the British and the Americans themselves that helped Trump hack the election and manipulate it so that people would win. Because, of course, the Russians were known to create these fake Facebook pages, get people to see these pages, all this propaganda there to believe that Hillary was bad, Trump was good, vote for Trump. Now it turns out that Cambridge Analytica were helping to create these ads and these micro-targeted political bursts of knowledge or false knowledge and fake news to attack Hillary Clinton by calling her crooked. The entire project was called Defeat Crooked Hillary, according to Mike Turnbull, who was a senior member of Cambridge Analytica. He even boasted about this when he was interviewed by an undercover agent, an undercover reporter. Now, this is very important because if this is true, I mean, there's video footage, but if it's not edited or messed up in any way, if this is true, then there's a chance that Trump got elected in part because of the actions and the manipulations of this so-called small firm.
But again, I think voters should still hold a sense of self-responsibility.
Perhaps, but in a sense, responsibility is shared on different sides. You've got the people who voted for Trump, people who are going to vote for Trump regardless of whether they were being manipulated, and people who were on the fence and thought, oh, do you know what? Why am I voting for Hillary? Let me vote for Trump because of the Russian intervention and even the Cambridge intervention. I mean, Jesus, it went from Russia to Cambridge really quickly. It's surprising because we were always talking about how it was Russia, our so-called frenemy or enemy, that caused this.
I don't like the word frenemy in a political, global sense.
Perhaps it's not the right word, but
I think it's appropriate.
A sort of non-ally. That it was Russia that intervened and made things harder for Hillary to win. But now it seems that our own allies or people within our own country were helping. See, they helped with Cambridge Analytica helped with the Leave EU campaign with Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage knew Robert Mercer, who financially backed Cambridge Analytica and the Trump campaign, and Breitbart. Breitbart is a right wing, some would call it far right wing news/media platform. They have very controversial views regarding people of different races, Muslims, etc. Everybody,
us, so basically.
yeah, perhaps us included. We're brown, but we're not Muslim. But yes, Steve Bannon was from Breitbart, but he was also, at a time, the vice president of Cambridge Analytica before being Trump's personal advisor or political advisor. It's all tied in together. You had Farage, who knew Mercer who backed all of these companies with his own money. This man's a billionaire and he was using his resources. His daughter invested as well, but they were using their resources to manipulate elections. It's very interesting.
So they had a possible financial incentive?
Perhaps. I mean, if somebody like Trump won, I mean, we've seen his tax bill. His tax bill favors the millionaires and the billionaires. If somebody who was pro-rich, pro-capitalism, pro-business, someone like Trump won as opposed to Hillary, who claimed she would fight for $15 minimum wage and try to appeal more to the liberals and the social democrats and the liberal democrats and all these people who seem to hate corporations. If they manipulated it so that Trump would win as opposed to Hillary, they would keep more of their money, make more money.
On to that point, what do you think about the job Trump's done at the moment?
Well, let's say as of today, we found out that he, for all intents and purposes, is making sure that transgender people will not join the military. You can argue that this is a good thing if you believe that being transgender is some sort of mental illness.
Well,
let me just say that
though.
Pardon?
We do know about gender dysphoria and so on.
Yes, gender dysphoria, that does exist. It is classified as a mental disorder.
But I think it could be...
Say again?
I think in gender dysphoria, like, if they're arguing the thing about mental health and whether or not said individual cannot deal with the stress of war, surely a questionnaire and stuff, don't they already test for these kind of things?
Yes, you have to be tested.
If they pass the test, surely they should be able to go. I don't see the big deal, to be honest.
I mean, it makes sense.
If they pass the test, they should probably go.
Their argument is that if anything happens to them mentally, that would make them emotionally or mentally unfit to serve.
If they could deal with the trauma of like being born the wrong gender and then being on the verge of transition or fully transition, surely they could deal with something else.
Perhaps.
I mean, I think that maybe they should go through another test, maybe just to be extra sure. I think anyone with any mental health should probably go through another test in general.
This makes sense. I mean,
just more stringent testing. I mean, you are sending them to defend your country or in other countries and training them and so on. In America's case, they're training soldiers in the Afghanistan. I forget where it is.
Different places. But the point is, this divides opinion because you've got people on the left saying we shouldn't have mentally ill people carry guns and they're referring to mass shootings. And then you've got people on the right saying, but transgender people are mentally ill. That's according to them. We don't share these views and we never will. Not in this podcast and not even in our private lives.
This is kind of private, so we're not going to pretend to be someone else, are we?
No. But the people on the right, some people on the right would say, transgender people are mentally ill, blah, blah, blah. They shouldn't carry guns and go off
This is American, right? We're talking about America specifically, yeah.
Perhaps, but I remember posting something like this on Facebook a couple of months ago. I was talking about how Trump wanted to do this and how we tweeted about this. This was during the investigation into the possible Russian intervention of the US election. I thought it was just a distraction. That's what some people thought. So he tweeted, transgender people, you can't be in the military anymore. People got outraged. I posted it on Facebook. There was a comments war in my comments section. You had some friends saying, no, this is discrimination. You've got other people saying, no, this is the right thing to do. Transgender people are mentally ill, blah, blah, blah. I was like, Jesus Christ.
They're also your friends.
Yep.
Those are just a
They were
couple of people.
fighting each other. There were swear words, trolling, people telling each other to shut up. It was ridiculous.
Those are just your friends. Imagine the whole country like that.
Yep, the whole country is like that. You've got families not talking to each other, friends not talking to each other. Here too, after the Brexit vote, you had people not talking to
I
their
hate being called a
grandparents.
Ramona. I hate getting called a Ramona.
Yes. Well,
I haven't even moaned and I get called a Ramona.
but imagine the EU vote being manipulated in part by a small so-called data marketing firm just because people collected our data and then used it and then sent us ads targeting us, telling us vote this way, not that way.
You
Could
say
you-
that. I remember after Brexit happened, loads of people were arguing that the media and politicians did not make the point of Brexit clear and what would happen and what wouldn't happen. But at the end of the day, people voted for what they voted for, and 1 million more people wanted to leave. And while I did vote Remain, after
You did? Or
I voted Remain. I
Yeah.
voted Remain. I just said I'd get called Ramona.
yes.
Well, I'm guessing I would be. I'm hoping they're not going to make Ramona comments now. But we've after leaving, and well, we're in the process of leaving. We're finding out how stringent and how really weird the rules are for the EU. And I don't actually like the EU. How they run. I mean, if we had remained and we won by some margin, I would say reform the EU because it's clearly a problem. I didn't think it would be this bad. I didn't think that European Union would be so inefficient. I mean, why can't we just trade with them? Like, why do we have to go for all this? Like,
It does seem to be very difficult. I mean, the media made it out that it was
be simple,
partly
it'd
the
be
fault.
simple.
The media, apart from that, while the negotiations were going on, it seemed that our government didn't know what they were doing. At least that was the view of the media. They wanted to paint them in a negative light. And at the same time, the EU seemed to be very rigid. It was like it seemed that the EU was leading the way, not Britain, and we were the ones who were supposed to stand up to the EU. So the EU do seem to be quite rigid in some regards. For example, when it comes to, oh God, so many different things. I can't even think of an example, but we digress. It perhaps in hindsight, it may be,
a good call.
it may be a good, I don't want to say
I mean,
it.
England has
it
been-
may be that there may be reasons why we should leave the EU, obviously. I mean, you still got people up to this day. We had the vote in 2016. This year's 2018. People are saying we need a second referendum. Jeremy Corbyn kicked out Owen Smith, his former rival and a front bencher, just because Owen Smith decided that he was still campaigning for a second referendum, that he still wanted the EU to take us back or to find some way of Britain not leaving the EU before it's too late.
Well, staying would be easier because leaving it seems like a nightmare. But that's because that's because the system is so weird, difficult.
The fact that it's so
Overcomplicated.
The fact that it's so difficult to leave, and the fact that
It's kind of like a testament of how bad the system is being run. If it's so this difficult to leave, I mean, seriously.
Jesus Christ. And another thing, depending on what the fine is, some people said it was 100 billion. I think it's slightly less than that now. I think it's 60 billion, maybe 50, 60. Regardless of what the actual figure is, whether that increases, decreases, it doesn't matter. Whatever the actual figure is, it's a lot of money. People will say, oh, but we'll do better in a decade's time or in 6 years' time, we'll pay that off.
We'll be in our 30s then. Damn.
Regardless, it's like leaving a gym and they fine you for leaving the gym. Like, it's like joining a club and then you have to pay an exit fine. I've never heard of joining something and then you have to leave and you have to pay a fine for leaving. That alone shows that the EU has some issues. But that was the contract that was written up in the 70s when we joined, yes. But geez.
What's the 70s? Oh, never
Yes,
mind.
we joined we joined the EU before it was called the EU in the 1970s. But yes, the EU have not been exactly kind to us, and let's face it, why would they? We're the first country to leave, they want to prove a point. if that means trying to,
Yeah. It wasn't. Didn't Great Britain own most of the world anyway?
not at most, but let's say a quarter of the world
Yeah.
at one time. But the empire is not non-existent right now. We have a commonwealth, but not an empire.
Well, we had an empire. Well, I don't think we.
Speaking of empires, do you believe that if these firms like Cambridge Analytica could so easily warp
Topple an
people's
empire?
minds, not topple an empire, but if they could warp people's minds, actually, perhaps, if
Well-
they helped, if they manipulated people to vote,
Is there a chance
leave.
they were involved in the Russian election? You mentioned Nigeria.
I mentioned Nigeria. I mean, what do you?
I mean, you did say that Putin has a monopoly in the media in Russia already, so what would be the point?
I mean, perhaps we can only speculate whether Putin or somebody. We can only speculate if somebody hired Cambridge Analytica on behalf of Putin to make sure that the election would swing in Putin's favor. Perhaps we can only speculate it. We can only guess. We don't know. What we do know is that they have affected elections and politics all over the world in different continents, including Africa, Nigeria included, and Kenya included, and including America and Britain, particularly the Leave EU campaign with Nigel Farage leading that, and the Trump campaign. As we already said, a senior member of Cambridge Analytica admitted that his firm helped create the crooked Hillary ads that were sent on YouTube, Google, and Facebook. And obviously people watched those. Millions of people saw those. It was watched 30 million times. Different people looking at those ads probably thinking, oh, well, perhaps Hillary Clinton isn't the right choice. Maybe I should vote for Trump. They also mentioned how Bernie Sanders, in the ads, they also mentioned how Bernie Sanders didn't stand a chance. So they try to use emotions and impulses to try to make people react and think maybe Trump is the rational choice, when really they're thinking with emotion.
How do you think he handles the North Korea situation, Trump?
Initially, one could argue that he handled it poorly, especially with the tweeting and boasting that his red button is bigger than Kim Jong-un's. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. That was something special. That was something special. However, Trump seems to be rectifying things with somehow getting a deal going. He's going to see Kim Jong-un in North Korea. They're going to have a sit down and talk about nuclear disarmament in North Korea. Now, this is a big deal.
Hopefully it goes well for everyone's sake.
Hopefully. Let's hope and pray that there's no World War III. Some of us would like to live our lives. Some of us would like to further this podcast to make it into something big. Hopefully make a career out of it. Nobody wants to be nuked. Okay?
Are you sure it'll be a World War III? It'll just be North Korea versus America.
No, other countries will get involved.
Why?
Because that's what always happens.
It's North Korea. Who's on their side here?
We could assume possibly China,
Why?
maybe Russia.
China trades with everyone. It would make no economic sense to side with one country.
There's a so-called trade war that's commencing between China and the US. Tariffs increasing, different products from China becoming more expensive, and the US is retaliating. It's very complicated, but we digress.
Again, with with America and China, there are other economies they trade with, and with the Brexit thing, we could trade more with India. I mean, China. Saying we don't trade that much with India. There are two big economies. We should probably trade more with them. Australia, other places. Nigeria is growing. I don't know how efficient. I don't know what Nigeria export, but with Brexit, I'm gonna make Brexit here, but we have the whole world at our footsteps in this situation now. I mean, at our front door now. We could trade with anyone.
Perhaps, but with the EU, we could have traded with the EU and still traded with those countries.
I know, and because how bloody terrible the system was, we have to deal with the aftermath and hope that the other deals that I'm suggesting now can offset set things in.
Perhaps, but the downside to it is we have to have stronger trading relations with countries such as Saudi Arabia, who
have human right violations.
a lot of human right violations, particularly against women, homosexuals, children, people who even try to stand up for themselves. But it's not exactly in line
We haven't
with
been there. We don't
our
know
values.
how it's like there. That's the image that we get.
Okay, fine. It's the image that we get. Perhaps it's not. Perhaps it's been warped by British media. Perhaps.
Western
but
media, I
from
would say, probably.
perhaps there's some truth to it, and if that's the case, it's not in line with our values as a country and as people. So.
Yeah, but we have
And
to.
maybe if we have to have stronger trade relations with such countries.
We should have a set of guidelines.
And by the way, this isn't Saudi Arabia, the country. This is Saudi Arabia, the government. Saudi Arabia, the people running Saudi Arabia, not every single person who happens to be Saudi or Arab.
Yeah.
But the funny thing with this Facebook scandal is Facebook lost $50 billion in a week. Mark Zuckerberg, he took like 5 days to apologize. And then he said, yeah, I could see Congress. He didn't mention seeing at the MPs because both the MPs and Congress wanted him to come and speak to them about what was going on, how could this happen. I mean, Facebook heard about this in 2015. This came out in 2018. So not only did he have 5 days to apologize, his company knew about it for 2 years. So
Cambridge Analytica were doing stuff like this back in 2015.
Yeah.
What were they involved with in 2015?
Well, let's see. We've heard that 50 million people had their data harvested because an app was used to collect data,
we know
and people's friends of friends' data was taken. And then after that, Facebook heard about this about a year later in 2015. So the data grab was in 2014. They heard about it in 2015. And after that, people like Christopher Wiley, like Cambridge Analytica, they were told to delete their data. Apparently they had deleted their data. But now in 2018, because whistleblowers, including Christopher Wiley, have had legal disputes with the company and they ended on bad terms. And for moral reasons, apparently, they've gone and said that they've decided to blow the whistle on whatever's going on, tell the truth. Wiley calls Cambridge Analytica a full-blown propaganda machine, going onto full detail as to how he, as a research director, could just grab all of your data and use it to manipulate you, and how computers can figure out people better than those people's loved ones. It's an interesting video to watch. He spoke to The Observer and The Times and The Guardian and everything.
Let's go back to, what I asked you about. Let's think about the election in general. Brexit's happening, it's happened. Based on the Russian election which has happened and the job Trump is doing in May, who would you say is doing the best they can based on their circumstances? Do you think...
That's a hard question.
Putin at the point, I don't like how... I would like it for him to allow some criticism in the media and let it more liberalize it slightly. Here I don't like how again with the whole Corbyn, the BBC painting him as some sort of Russian ally. He was just trying to stay on the fence and telling people to wait until more information comes out before jumping to a conclusion. Technically, that's what people should do. With that Cambridge Analytica, if you think of that approach, you see one article or a series of posts and you go oh, Brexit's good, or Hillary's bad, or Trump's good, or whatever. You should probably look into it and see whether you agree with it, rather than just going, yes, yeah, that's right, Hillary is bad, I should vote for Trump.
So perhaps...
people should take responsibility.
Makes sense. So perhaps...
And hopefully Trump can have a amicable agreement with North Korea.
Yes, that's what we'd all want, please God. Or whatever you believe in.
I don't know what to believe in anymore.
People should take more responsibility when they see ads of a political nature or
any
of
an
emotive nature, even general advertisements.
Famous people, non-famous people.
You're saying that people should be more aware.
Yeah.
Try and take time to think about things, see why are you creating these ads, who's behind it.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of bias. I mean, I know you know Ant and Deck, right?
Yes.
Ant got in
yes,
an accident recently, and there are people would also people defend him like he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
If he wasn't famous, do you think anyone would be that sympathetic for that person?
I don't think as many people would be, no.
They'd be like, "Oh my God, this guy was an alcoholic. He got drunk, and people nearly got hurt."
I honestly don't believe that he would have got so much support. It's only because he's loved by millions of people and they've been watching his shows.
I mean, I'm a fan of
Well,
Ant and
not
Dec
only
here and there.
because, but one of the reasons.
I wish people would stop with that bit. Like, if you're going to defend Ant, defend other people. And the fact is, the annoying thing with Ant is that he has the financial ability to actually fix himself and go into rehab and all that stuff. Other people don't. I mean, I think you should, if you have sympathy for Ant, have sympathy for someone who actually has a more reason to have those problems. Not saying that being famous means that you don't have problems, but like be nice to everyone. Well, have a open mind. What's your opinion on that?
An open mind. Yeah, I would have to totally agree there.
Okay, if it was the other way around and a drunk driver had hit Ant, would there be any sympathy for...
And I highly doubt there would be any sympathy for the driver at all.
He got a prison and so on and stuff.
Perhaps a prison sentence would be inevitable, to be honest. Now,
Ashley Cole shot a boy once. He's a footballer. He shot a boy. Yeah, he took a gun to the Chelsea training ground, and he was playing with a gun, and he shot one of the ball boys. Nothing happened to him. He was a footballer. You should probably Google it. It's an old story.
Okay. So I did not know that.
I forgot about it until I was thinking about it now. I was thinking about other cases.
Yeah.
There are plenty of cases. I mean, no one got hurt in that situation. I think he just wounded the guy, but it was still a gun. But
yeah, but back to the so-called Facebook scandal. I mean, delete Facebook was trending on Twitter. There was a consumer backlash, and people like Elon Musk were deleting Elon Musk deleted his SpaceX and Tesla pages of Facebook. Some people were making the very clever decision to delete Facebook and spend more time on Instagram, not realizing that Instagram is owned by Facebook. And other things happened as well. But the most important question to ask is...
Who would you vote for, actually? Who would that be? What's the question? Who are we voting for, actually?
Who are we voting for? Well, okay,
what are we voting
fine.
For?
Are we voting for people who have our best interest at heart? Are we voting for people we like the most? Or are we voting for people who we elect just because...
Option.
Are we voting for people who are the least...
Worst option.
The least worst?
The
lesser of two evils?
Yeah, that's what...
Or are we voting for people just because we were slightly manipulated into voting for them? But another important question would be, now that we know of these firms such as Cambridge Analytica, and even when Cambridge Analytica say we're not the only one to do this, other firms do this, now that we know of this stuff...
What's the point in voting, some would say?
No. What would we have to do to become more aware? How would we take responsibility on this so that we don't just get randomly impulsed or motivated or manipulated by some political ad, especially one that just relies more on emotive opinions and fake news as opposed to real facts and statistics? How can we make sure that we don't encourage or vote for another Brexit or another Trump or another controversial political events that has split and divided people more than ever before just because we listen to an ad? How do we actually...
I don't know how we can, but the thing is, Brexit is, we're kind of agreeing with it because the EU system isn't that great. And Trump is the president at the moment. I don't know what will happen if we get impeached or whatever, but he is the president, and I think we should hope that he does a better job. And we have to support we have to make sure that the government does the best gets the best agreement with Brexit, and hopefully.
So just make the best of it?
Well, I think criticism is important. Without criticism, we have to make sure. Without criticism, Trump has to take that criticism on board and make sure he's better. Putin has to allow criticism so he could benefit Russia. We need to make sure that the government are scrutinized for letting Brexit happen and making sure that we get the best deal. And we have to accept that some people aren't okay with Brexit happening. I'm not okay with, but I just want the best deal.
I can accept it as long as the best deal is made. Yes, you're right on that. And with Trump, I hope that the North Korea deal goes well. I hope that there's nuclear disarmaments for North Korea. In fact, for all countries.
I would salute Trump if
for
he
all
could
countries.
sort North Korea out. I think he will as well.
I would salute Trump if he managed to
get democracy. Now that's too big of a job.
that, and if he managed to get nuclear disarmament for all countries, including his own.
That's being very optimistic. North Korea is
It seems almost impossible right now, but it is possible. It can happen. That's what I'd like to believe.
Do you think May would stop trialing? Do you think Putin would stop his many? Do you think that Putin would stop? Do you think China would stop? Iran? Every other country that I could think of? I mean, it's possible, but every country needs the right leader, and we need open dialogue. Dialogue is important.
Yes, a lot of talks will have to be done before that even occurs. Perhaps with a firm like Cambridge Analytica, maybe it's a blessing in disguise now that more people are waking up to the fact that you can just easily manipulate an election using these algorithms and computer science and using people's personal data to figure out who they are so that you know how to target them, how to convince them to vote in a certain way. Now that we know that this is even possible, or now that it's clearer that it's possible, we can try and find ways against it. Maybe not just increase privacy regulations on social media sites like Facebook, but perhaps encourage and pressure these social media giants and these big data giants, including YouTube and Google, to do more to weed out the fake news distributors and any contents
We also need to
that may be created for the sake of manipulating people using false notions.
and clickbait. I don't like clickbait.
Yeah, political clickbait, perhaps.
Yeah.
Whatever we can do to either stop it from happening or to make people aware which ones are political clickbaits and which ones are created to just manipulate you.
Yeah, last week we talked about stop and search. I think when people see a story, they should stop and think about it.
Yeah.
I'm segueing in last week, but I saw a link.
Perhaps we could stop and think about it and work more as a community and everyone take individual responsibility to be more aware when you're on the web.
And make the best of the situation. Yeah. Be more aware and
be more aware of what we post online. Be more aware of what other people can see, what apps we download, who created these apps and why. And to make sure that if this ever happens again, it won't just be a hashtag. The people responsible will actually be punished. I mean, if Cambridge Analytica, a British-owned, British-run political consultancy firm, affected not just Leave EU, but the Trump campaign and other foreign elections, such as the American election, then not only is that immoral, but it's a criminal offense, and such people will have to do jail time if they've committed a crime. Just like whoever committed the nerve agent poisoning in Salisbury.
I think the committers will be punished, and
they should be punished.
Potentially plotters, but we have no idea how high that goes.
Whoever's in charge of that and whoever made it happen, whether it's Salisbury or Cambridge Analytica, they should be punished.
Not Salisbury, the town.
In the right way, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, and
that's it for episode 2. Thank you for listening.
And hopefully next week will be better.
Next week we will talk about a different issue, and we will update you on what that issue will be. Of course, If you want to check us out, go on to SoundCloud. Download SoundCloud if you don't have it already. You go into soundcloud.com/politically-challenged, or you can go onto our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/politically-challenged.
We did a
All
lot of
one
bashing.
word, no hyphen.
We did a lot of bashing on Facebook today in a bit.
Yeah.
But you can trust us, though. You can trust us.
We even have an Instagram page. If you go onto Instagram and type in politically challenged, and we should be there.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, and see you next time. Goodbye.